Hi, everyone. So I'm going to start coming back and start doing some content, and we're going to have some fun. But I hope you guys understand that I can't push the envelopes that I have been pushing at certain times until these 2 strikes come off. This is a repository of all my information in my head, this channel, everything I've learned, everything that you guys need to know. I know people are always watching the videos. I get the analytics. And I'm not going to let the 3rd strike come and the channel get destroyed. But with that, what is the topic for today? Well, Hermes and Thoth, the Atlantean, are often conflated with one another. And I fell into this trap too until very recently. Now, I have read the Hermetica, and I have read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. In fact, I have a video on it. Well, actually, so I have Occult Priestess on, who's going to go into the differences, and we're just going to make a solid case on why, or she's going to make a solid case on why they are not one alike and explain why they are conflated together. Hello. Priestess, can't hear you, honey.
Sorry about that. Hello, Mike and Hank. Hi. Good afternoon to you and your audience. I've come prepared today with my messenger. Here, you can see this is Hermes on my lapel, but there's more to the visual than that. So we have Hermes on my shirt too.
Amazing.
And so I'm a big fan of the Greek god Hermes Trismaximus Trismegistus.
Which means thrice born, I think, if I remember, right?
Thrice great. Great. Rah,
thrice
rah,
great.
Rah.
That was it. Thrice great, not thrice born. So before we start, I do have a video on the Emerald Tablets. Again, I'm emphasizing tablets, and you guys will understand why in a little bit. Instead of tablet. No, tablets of Thoth. And I've broken it down with astrotheology, and I've broken it down with quantum physics. And to be honest with you, I have a video on my channel about it, and there's a lot there. So I'm not going to discredit that document or that work as something that hasn't followed the same trope that I've been tracing for 6,000 years. So I do see value to that, but bring us your expertise and first explain to us, why do people always conflate them?
They didn't. So I began my journey into spirituality around 16 years old, seriously. And all the books I've read didn't conflate Hermes with Thoth, as I say and pronounce it, Thoth, because it is also the word thought or think, therefore Thoth. Many people say Thoth, and I don't know where they got it from. So I'm coming from the past, where I actually was studying before all of this conflation came about. Now, we have associations of gods in paganism and Wicca, in the ancient religions. So you might say there's obviously Aphrodite and Venus. And that's like really controversial. We can bring that up too, because it follows along the same line.
You know, I just want to jump in real quick with the video that I did real quick. I did a video on Wonder Woman, right? Who is based off of Hermes. And if you follow Hermes.
You mean Artemis?
Artemis. Did I say Artemis? Artemis, yeah. She's based off Artemis. And if you look at who Artemis was conflated with in the Romans, because Artemis was Greek, the Roman goddess that's often associated was Diana, which is why they called her Diana.
Her mother.
Right.
Well, yeah. And then her mom too. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry. No. So go on. Okay. So you've been studying this since you were 16. You're saying that it didn't used to be conflated together?
No, because paganism wasn't popular and the New Age was busy doing other things, I suppose. But that wasn't as popular either when I was coming up. Paganism was available to me because I had a bookstore. I owned a bookstore, and it was the occult shop. So I did rituals. I made candles and incense and everything. So I'm telling you, I'm educated and coming from a background that is awesome. And then as The Secret came out, The Secret by Linda Byrne.
You're actually talking about that popular book, The Secret, right?
The book and the film.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yes. So The Secret came out, and in the very beginning, you actually see Hermes' emerald tablet in the very beginning of the film. And she kind of equates and says, this is what I was reading that got me the knowledge of the universe, the one emerald tablet of Hermes. But when you research her, you find that she is a special type of Christian. I forget, it's in my blog. Some kind of Gnostic. She's not Greek, obviously.
Right.
And she's not pagan.
Is it mystic?
Definitely not mystic.
Okay.
No, she had no abilities. She just read a book, right? Yeah, right? And we used to call those people IRABs. I read a book. Because those people would try to infiltrate the pagan community all the time and think that they knew everything because they read one book. Very common practice. However, I believe the issue of conflation versus association, we can take it back to Rome very easily with Venus and Aphrodite, Hermes, Aphrodite, hermaphrodite. That's the teaching of alchemy and how to balance the masculine and feminine within so that you can become a full conscious human being.
Well, you see that on the Israeli flag. You see the Star of David, right? It's
I don't know where you're going.
It's the masculine.
Oh, you're going with triangles and visuals. I see.
I'm talking about just like rudimentary penis symbols and vagina symbols. And everything.
Right. We call that the not so great, right?
We can talk about Baphomet too, right? Baphomet is a mixture of male and female.
The French Baphomet is a teaching tool, is an amalgamation of many symbols. And you actually have to break the Baphomet down into its own tiny compartments to understand what alchemically the Baphomet is teaching. But that's from, ancient French kind of occultism. We're not there anymore.
Right.
Although you see Baphomet almost every day.
Which reminds me, when we get off this podcast, I'm going to tag you on Twitter with one of my friends who has a pagan podcast. It's called Greyhorn Pagan Podcast.
I totally follow them. They follow me too.
Already hooked up. You want me to hook it up? I'll hook it up.
You
guys will have a great conversation. I would listen to that while I fall asleep. But anyway, so go on. So please.
Back to Venus.
Yes.
And Aphrodite. We understand, and those who have read a little bit of history, that the Romans not only ransacked and took over Greece, they stole the gods, and then they remarketed them as their own gods. And I think this is where the conflation really started, where there was an actual problem. And some of us, past life people, are still angry over the Grecian wars and still think we're fighting them today in a new form, right? So I think the truest issue when you boil this down is everyone around me who's talking about this pretty much is a monotheist. They understand the three major Abrahamic religions of the one God. And when we study our Greek or even our Roman, we'll see that there was no one huge, powerful God. Yes, we have Zeus, the eternal. However, Zeus does not get his way all the time. No. And there are many times in which Zeus's rule and law is overturned for an even better outcome. Right. That's not a monotheistic situation, although people try to demonize Zeus as if he is the Abrahamic God. So what I think what we have here is Christian goggles trying to look at something that they do not understand. And just for those out there that meditate and that have visions, if you doubt that Hermes and Thoth are different beings, then you must talk to them and you must ask them and get your own answer. And that's what no one is doing.
Now, how you came to Hermes, you didn't do that either. You came to Hermes a different way, right?
Meditation.
Right. No. But I meant asking direct that question.
Oh, goodness. I had no idea who Hermes really was when I met him. So I have a video on my channel, Occult Priestess on YouTube. I'm also on Rockfin under Occult Priestess. And it's how I met my spirit guide, Hermes. So it was around 1995. I was in a guided meditation with my Reiki master. And that it was the one where you're going to meet your spirit guide. And I'd been trying for 7 years to find out who my spirit guide was. I was talking to this amalgamous blob, like, right? I could put a face on it, but I didn't know that was its face, you know, until he manifested. And I asked him his name, manifested in my mind's eye, not physically. And I asked him his name, and I heard a bell, and then I heard the word Hermes, and it was as clear as a bell. And from then on, since 1995, Hermes has been a daily feature in my life. I'm clairaudient, so I can hear him and others. And unfortunately, I can also hear the dead. I try not to as much as possible. So I've got my radio on, and a lot of people don't these days. But if you do, you just got to tune it to the right station.
You know, I want to get your thought on this. I wasn't going to bring this up, but this is such a great way to get your brilliant take on this. I have this thought process that what they call schizophrenia is just all the volumes turned up going on in your mind, or two souls fighting in your body.
It depends. I've written something very deep on that there are soul hijackers who try to clear their karma by sharing consciousness with someone. It never works. It is a great evil upon our planet.
Right.
And the first way that you said all the volumes turned up at once, yeah, that's multidimensional understanding. Multidimensional feed coming in is very confusing, especially
whereas you've spent years and you're trained in how to basically focus your consciousness on certain ones so it doesn't become overwhelming like a schizophrenic, right? So
no, I do get overwhelmed from time to time.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how protected you are. If you're doing the deep, dark, bloody work of this dimension, then you're going to get some on you.
Okay. All right. So, so basically we touched on the secret, right? Which is...
And monotheism, the issue.
And monotheism too, which, by the way, guys, if you've read, and I've talked about this on my channel too, the first sentence in the Bible tells you this. In Hebrew, it's Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. The word Elohim is a combination of two words. It's El, which is God, and Ohim is putting an apostrophe S at the end of God. So it's in the beginning.
What? Go ahead.
In the beginning. So it's El Ohim. So in Hebrew, Ohim is just it's a plural indicator. So what they say, the first sentence in the Bible is, in the beginning, the gods created the heavens and the earth. They tell you this, but most people read it as a monotheistic way. In fact, monotheism wasn't even created by the so-called Abraham. Monotheism was actually created by Akhenaten in Egypt in 1367 BC. They just inverted and perverted that whole story. But you're right, for all of time, they were gods, and they'll tell you that in Genesis if you know how to read Hebrew, which a lot of these Christian pastors have no clue. So, what are your thoughts?
So, Elohim, the way that I've learned and taught it, is the enlightened man. So, El of God. Ohim, what I looked up, said that it was the enlightened part. Like when man becomes a full soul, fully realized, fully enlightened, then you're Elohim, which is some kind of angel. That's what I've read. It's partially based on Philip K. Dick, because he has a great quote about the Elohim.
Philip K.
And Akhenaten.
Does he really? I'm only familiar with Minority Report when it comes to Philip K. Dick.
That's a good one.
Which we're not far away from with Neuralink.
No, I don't want to be put in a pool and be a psychic for the world. No, thank you.
No, I don't need that. Okay, so let's talk about... Go over the difference between the Emerald Tablet and Hermes Tablet. why it's so important that there's a difference between the two.
The first time I came across the Hermes, sorry, let me get back in my own energy. The first time I came across the emerald tablets of Hermes was in my library. I was about 15 years old, and I was always going to the weird part of the library, and I'd read about it, I guess, in another book. And so I checked it. You couldn't check it out because it was rare, but I got it in my hands and I put it on the scanner and had the copies. So that was a deep understanding for me to get as almost a child. And it was in the library. All right. I didn't hear about the emerald tablets of Thoth until about 2011, 2012-ish. And I was like, cool, somebody's talking about Thoth. Great.
Yeah, right?
And I even posted about it a couple of times because just to get Thoth out there, like, hey, man, what, you know, cool. But then I did my research and I found the stuff I sent you from.
Which blew my mind.
NXT, I think is his name. He did the real research. He went to the physical places of the people who wrote these lines, the Maitlands, which I thought was funny because the Maitlands are in Beetlejuice. So that's the blog. That's his blog. The differences, and he has a video on it as well. But based on his evidence, because I was mad already, that's like I thought maybe it was fake. So that's why I went and dug it up and found somebody who had done the research. Because, you know, I'm not driving all over God's green earth to figure this out. Right. He did already. So it's debunked very obviously in that blog, but it's not my work, so I can't necessarily talk about it.
Gotcha. Okay. Why emerald?
Good question. Where did he get that question from? I don't know. That's a good one.
Is it alchemical? I mean, it has to be alchemical.
Yes. For those who are visionaries, who have visions, the way the gods communicate are through, a lot of times, through music and color. And vibration actually translates to color and music on a higher vibration. It does. And so God is my DJ. Hermes mixes the colors and sends you what you need when you need it. The emerald is very deep, and I have written about it, but on the surface, it's the heart chakra, and it is the green love of the universe. But it's also a Sirius color. Sirius is naturally blue. I'm talking about the planet Sirius, or star system Sirius, A, B, and C. But my Hermes, my particular soul vibration of Hermes, comes to me through the planet Sirius B on vibrations or radio waves through the psychic temple. And the emerald is something that's very, very protective. The blue of Sirius is almost manic, mercurial. It can get you to think in flip-floppy ways that you've never thought before and set your mind right. So I just wanted to put that little note in there.
Is that why in Sega Genesis, the original Sonic games, he's chasing after the emeralds?
It could be. It could be.
Yeah. That makes sense. What do you make of, like you were talking, they come in colors, they come in music, they come in sound. What do you make of people with synesthesia who experience them differently?
So I don't know, because I haven't gotten a hold of one. The only way I get to figure things out is if I get to kind of merge with another person, and then I can understand where disconnects or other issues are, or even miracles might be.
Wow. Okay. All right. So, when you said that you think it's a forgery, the emerald tablets of Thoth, right? When you say you think that's a forgery,
it's not. It's not historically. There is no historical evidence that that's real. Is the point? If you went to a scholar, they would laugh you out of the room. That's the point.
So let me ask you a question, because with that, and even the Book of Mormon, when I was breaking down everything with astrotheology, it ran rampant through both of those.
But I bet you if you go out today and you get you a rag magazine like USA Today right off the shelf, and you apply your science to it, you're going to find connections. No matter what you use, you're going to find connections.
True, but I don't know if it'll always make such deep patterns and literal connections. I don't know. I mean, I'd assume you can apply it to other things. Sure. So talk to me about the tablet of Hermes and its wisdom.
It's very simple, short, curt. We could even bring it up here.
If you'd like to share, sure.
Oh, well, I actually brought a whole blog to share. It's about 12 minutes long. I made it today, but it's all about my adventures in LA and how I got educated on the fake new age people. Fake ass new age people.
Right. Now, when you use the word new age, I hate that term because the truth of the matter is a lot of the things they call new age, astrology.
Oh, I don't call that new age.
No, I know. But would you agree that a lot of the stuff that the church bans as new age, like yoga and things of that example, are actually older than church to begin with?
Yeah, I love that quote that you did. I liked it recently, that everything the church tries to debunk, honestly, it's because they stole it. And if you figure that out, they're screwed.
Yeah, that's the idea, right? So, okay, so bring up what you have and I will gladly share it.
Okay, here we go.
All right, so let me add this.
I would like,
you can bring us down,
to take you on a strange journey. Discover the Los Angeles and New Age disclosure community and what happens beyond. An expose on pop culture reality by a third IGRL. Our maiden, Magenta, has infiltrated the ranks of high UFO society. This is her report to her riff-raff. She's finally seen it all, so what is the verdict? New Age is not occult esoteric vs exoteric. I have just recently understood most people in our community are not seasoned occultists. Pardon my past life thinky brain for tricking me. I have reoriented my soul to this time space of 2018, and I can see clearly now the rain is gone. Clear sight, I was born psychic and experienced demonic attack in the form of sleep paralysis plus shadow man for the first 19 years of my life. I was born spiritual, loving, and too kind. Although I had a couple of shallow incarnations in the 1700s and 1800s, I had not been fully present in soul since Avalon. So many things have changed since then. My soul remembers my pinnacle lives, as a priestess and a soul guide. I also retain memory of being a spiritual guide to many incarnated luminaries. I am not your average bear. I began counseling others with tarot professionally as a teenager. I became a high priestess of Wicca and began walking my spiritual path with the gods, still in my teens. I became a Buddhist devote under my guru at age 23, and learned I am a mystic. We are rare, as I keep being shown. This must be why no one seems to see the real me. From Wicca to Buddhism, I took the natural spiritual path of my pop culture. I opened an occult bookstore, yet spent all my time on community building and helping others. I was attacked and fed off of by an entire community. Image that for one moment. High priestess, laid low by those she trusted and wanted to assist into greater being. Witch burning by those who claimed to be witches. The witches' ball I started is still going annually. Through me marriages happened and babies were made. That I am proud of. Otherwise I was there to learn, modern times are not the old days. I still have 3 Coven graduates who hold the light for the Coven of the Illuminated Shadow, my original concept. Community, God called me to come to Los Angeles. I wanted to run away from home at 6 years old to make it happen, but God had a lot of training for me to go through. In 2016, I arrived in South Los Angeles to live. Finally! Next was a series of missions, guided by the gods. These missions took me to places and people I would never otherwise experience. I was near the limelight. My mission was to be present, talk silently to the gods about what and who I was observing, and give an educated opinion. I was aware some kind of judgment was happening through me. I am not a big god in this body. I am a vessel. And I am used for judgment. I began to see those I touched were being judged, weighed, and measured. No one passed. That was wild to me. Everyone we touched had karma coming. I wonder if all this was a lesson for me, to be ignorant to do the work, then have full understanding after I saw the results. Thinky brain, intellectually I began to observe the flat facts. 2 years of Los Angeles investigating, infiltrating, lectures, photos, good food, and not one psychic. Sure, they speak of astral travel, but some think astral travel is physical.
Someone who cannot tell the difference between physical and astral is a liar. Only in intense cases of Kundalini can one not distinguish real from memorex. Kundalini needs an ego death to work. I have not met one person in Los Angeles who has had ego death. Researchers are the new mystics. Wow. Just wow. Devastating news, old ones. We have been replaced by science fiction. Meaning those being taught are following a false light into more darkness. Gnosis is experiential knowing, and cannot be replaced by books plus speculation of a demented deluded ego. My target was David Wilcock. I always took a picture with him, if he was in the room. I told him several times, I believe he is Edgar Cayce, and encouraged him to keep up on that. He told me he no longer seeks visions or spiritual communication. He leaves that to Corey Good. Whoa. What? A visionary cannot just pluck out their third eye. It's a constant happening. There was no miscommunication. This was our conversation. I used any excuse to touch his heart, physically, in hope God would talk to him. Law of One, Rematerial, a reference David Wilcock makes often. The creators of the Law of One made this film. For my training, I had roommates that were high magicians, and they used the same symbology. There is no mistake. This is taken from Golden Dawn plus Aleister Crowley teachings. This is ceremonial high magic equals demonic. Writers, Carla Ruckert and Don Elkins # Atlantis Films. Don Elkins, Death by Suicide. Sagayatv, I did finally meet one psychic, from a radio podcast in Arkansas, but she lives here. American psychic Marla Fries. Given her last name is fake, I had to research her, before I could get to know her. Since then, we have shared some great psychic secrets about community. We are ignored, so why not discuss why we are ignored? Used. The used oracle is a tale as old as time. Marla brought Sid from Gaia to the Kul. I beeline straight for him. So Sid, how about those greys? He took out his phone, and showed me a piece of art he had commissioned, of his abduction by greys. Looked like a classic anal probe session. The way he spoke of these creatures, you would think they were all Jesus to him. He was in love bondage. I took his ear, I whispered to him Mars is hell, basically telling him, in his ear that he is a Satanist, and I knew it. Lol. Jerk. I was never into Gayatv or The Secret because it's all New Age BS. False Light, Church of Jimmy, I was associated with Jimmy plus Rita through my good buddy Freeman.tv. I worked for Freeman, then met the community out here through Fade to Black. December 2017 I get a Facebook MSG from Rita. You wanna be on the show? Oh my god yes, no question. I had been waiting, as if I was in an invisible line. Lovely Rita meter maid, she kept my time for me. The show. Big build up, in a lineup with David Icke and Linda Moulton. How? What? I am a nobody? Lol. Well, in true Hermes fashion, fade to black. Faded to black. Hermes can be a literal joker, you see. I am just about to go out over the airwaves for the first time, open my mouth in greeting and boom. Nothing. Blackness. Okay, haha Hermes, I get it. What? Fade to Black is a song? I had no idea. Oh really? More information came. Second shot, the second show went off without a hitch, so it was only me, David, Dick and Linda that week. Blessed. From that show, my entire life changed. Instant friends, just add Jimmy plus Rita lol. I had my first Los Angeles clientele and I could go shopping for the first time. Bless them for that. Being in the Church of Jimmy was eye-opening, the most interesting mini-community I have ever observed. Such diversity. Kindness was abundant. Being invited to celebrate with them on a few occasions plus my birthday, were peak experiences for me. Jimmy and I do not see eye to eye on many topics. Who cares? I don't mind being disagreed with, yet I do enjoy discourse of why I am being disagreed with, which I did not get. Busy bees. Deeper understanding. I was in full mode hero worship when I came to Los Angeles. This was super for the egos of the authors and presenters I fawned over. Made us both feel good. I gave them fangirl plus shaked I pat love. Yet now my horse blinders are off, and I see Mars, super soldiers, Tiamat, Sumerian religion, moonbase, military spirituality, brainwashing, UFOs being defined as spaceships, and all the stuff at Skinwalker Ranch, is a trap of the soul light, and feeds this way. Nothing I mention in this list is spiritual, uplifting, of God, or love. Think about that. Paranormal used to be spiritual. In my day, we had a spiritual calling, and we followed it. We did our own research and talked to God's heaven to keep us on the path. We were devoted. Following the call, not pop culture spooks. Science and rational thought support the matrix only. The ego is the god of the false light matrix of human soul slavery. Psychology also works in this system of control with drugs to keep you stuck. Drinking or pill popping, you are compromised. Not on the path. # recovery and number 12-step videos on my YouTube, search Occult Priestess. I have been in service to other, since my eyes first opened on this planet. I understand my opinion is the least popular. That by default makes me crazy. Just remember, I have shown you my cards. And you know what I am here for. In service, to you, with love. Missionary of Heaven plus Justice, Occult Priestess Corrine Wilson. Sirius B. Must see, Linda Moulton Howe, Dr. Stephen Greer and more page shields.
So there's some pictures here of Linda Moulton Howe, Dr. Stephen Greer, and other page shills with the Rockefeller Initiative. Mm-hmm. And I hope everyone in the audience knows who the Rockefellers are.
Well, we know the Rockefellers. The Rockefellers were funded by the Rothschilds to bring oil and do all that stuff. And then they paid the newspaper, John D. Rockefeller paid the newspapers to call it fossil fuels, like it's not a renewable source. Like I was going to make a video of this, but I'm just going to drop it here, guys. Why do you think they leave oil rigs up? Why don't they break them down when they're done with them? Do you know why? It's because oil is a refillable resource. It's the second most abundant on the planet to water, and they leave that stuff up because they're going to be able to use it again, and it's a pain in the ass to put it up. So wanted to get that out there. Rockefeller also started the education system as far as dumbing it down goes, with all that kind of stuff. But I didn't know that they had their hand in perverting occultism and spirituality. Can we go into that for a minute?
Doesn't that make sense now, though?
100%.
Right? Why is all this bullshit BS everywhere out there? Well, there's an agenda. A lot of people know about George Soros or the World Economic Forum, these kinds of things.
I've checked their Wikipedia pages and they look like fine people.
Of course. What do you think Wikipedia works for? The Matrix.
Yeah, I know. No, it makes sense.
Well, I met them. They're not fine. The people I met were not fine people. And one of those was Linda Moulton Howe. And I first saw her when I was about 6 years old on the television talking about cows being mutilated. Do you remember the cow mutilations of the early 80s?
Mm-mm.
that happened. But yeah, seeing them with Rockefeller just completely opened my third eye. I was like, okay, I'm done, because it all made sense at that point. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know who was banking it. I didn't know who was backing it.
You know what I like to say? People get tired because I use the same catchphrases all the time, Priestess. But what I always say is that if you have, let's say, a roach problem or a rat problem, what do? You buy poison to kill them. But what you don't know is that it is not just straight poison. No one will go to just straight poison. What it is it's the most delicious food they could think of in the world with a little bit of cyanide in it, which is what all these new age people are. So let me get your right. It's great stuff, but the majority is poison.
If you have a favorite author in the new age, you need to meet them. If you're spending all your money, your time, your energy on them, you need to go meet them and ask them about what they're saying and see if they even know what they wrote in their own darn book.
Absolutely. You know what the interesting thing too about David Icke is? They attribute him for that book in 1999 that came out. They attribute the idea of reptilians to him entirely. They conflate it with him so much so that people think he invented that. But they've never heard the Pleiadian Message to Earth by Barbara Marcinek, which came out in 92, where she talks about the Lizzies or the reptiles. See,
That's right.
It's the same stuff that they do over and over again. And I don't know how you feel about David Wilcock at this point, but I had an issue with Corey Goode. I don't know if I ever explained that one to you.
Go ahead.
So I made this post when we were talking about when the virus came out, and I was talking about how I equated it to astrology. I was talking about Sagittarius being the tail of the dragon, and then I mixed it in with something. I can't remember what I wrote exactly, but Corey Goode caught it on Facebook and then shared it, and then suddenly my Facebook started blowing up with a bunch of new people. So I screenshotted his share because he wrote something pretty decent, and I emailed him, and I was like, can you take a look at my work? And he was like, what would you like to talk about? He was like open to it for a sec, and then he shut me out. And then you know what happened? I let it go, and I was like, you know what? He just completely ghosted me after I sent him my video.
Oh,
all right. 6 months later, all that stuff comes out about him and the moon and all that stuff. So in a way, I feel like I dodged a bullet.
It is a dodging a bullet because those people are out there to steal other people's work.
Yeah.
So if one of them gets a hold of you, be very careful.
No, I get it. What do you think of Billy?
Billy Carson is one of the loudest voices out there saying Thoth is Hermes. And he's actually pushing an agenda. You understand that the Black Panthers were actually formed by rich white people so that they could control even that aspect of life.
Well, I mean, there's that famous sentence that said, if you want, there will always be a controlled opposition, or what does the saying goes? They basically said, we will control the opposition is what they said.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we've got Billy Carson, who is very proud of being Black, you know, it's part of his topic, I suppose. And that's how you get that Black vote is you say Thoth, the Atlantean, was the smartest being that ever was. And he was Black. You see? It's all politics, every single bit of it.
It is. And on a higher level. So what do you think of David at this point?
David Wilcock is the lost soul.
Because I watched I've only seen one of his presentations, and I watched his source field when his book came out, presentation, where he gave his presentation on the source field, and it was brilliant. And I just, from an outside watching in, because I'm plugged into these guys a little bit, but not so much, but I still know when like things happen with them, David just fell off. He brought Corey in, and then he kind of put all of the work onto Corey, and then Corey had the issues, and it's just, how do you reach so many people without selling your soul is the ultimate question.
Well, I'm not sure you do. I'm not sure, because I went out and played the game with the big players. There I was at the table with the big players, and they were just waiting for me to compromise myself, just waiting for me to agree to the wrong thing. It never happened, not once, because I am who I am. And it never will. And I'll never sell out for money, fame, or any of that, because what I am is so much stronger and so much better, and it's immortal. So I'm not concerned about that. And I see that I thought my heroes were heroes when really they were just out to get me, basically.
Yeah, because they need something new. They need more crack to feed their audience is what they need.
And you know what? I will tell you one thing I learned out there that was a really big deal is I'm telling you, it's a big deal. They will tell you, they told me this, it was like a mantra. Our audience is stupid. They're dumb. They don't get anything. And you know what? I think they're projecting themselves onto the audience.
Always. There's always.
But I do have issues with people understanding me, even though I speak English.
Yeah. Well, the entire time I'm watching your story, the 12-minute video you just had, I'm just thinking to myself, there's going to be people on this channel that aren't on that level and think that you're batshit crazy. And I get that too. And I get that too. But at the end of the day, the authentic part is what's important, I think.
Yeah. And who is out there taking their life in their hands, moving? I moved to Los Angeles. I gave everything up. My family, my friends, my community, my support system.
Right.
And people were scared for me, really, like loved me and were frightened of what I might get into out there. I risked everything to learn the truth. That's the kind of girl I am. Yeah,
it's fantastic. And it's a heavy burden. People don't realize when you discover what's being hidden from you, first of all, you have to understand is that not only is it multidimensionally layered, but it never ends. It is endless. Yeah. You can always learn something new. What I found by doing this and by growing my channel, which is growing way more than I thought it would in a year.
Congrats.
Thank you. I'm driven to help people. You know, it's not so much what I figured out. I'm just some dick guy from Long Island, New York that figured some stuff out. But if I can help people and alleviate their fear of like hell, Satan, Baphomet, Lucifer, like I constantly do. I get messages all the time of people who I help. They reach out to me, they send me DMs, they email me, and I usually develop a friendship with them. And I tell them, if you need anything, or you need any reassurance, or you need you have a question, you can bounce it off of me. And I've done that a lot recently. It's service to others, and people don't do that in this community. They don't do that in this community. They're all about their book sales. I had a friend, Derek, in Florida, who took a picture and physically handed Billy Carson my first book. And there's a picture of him with Billy Carson in my first book. I bet you he burned it, to be honest with you. I bet you didn't even read it.
I'm telling you, it's about money. It is competition. You're not friends. When I went out there with all of my knowledge of the gods,
right,
they were like, huh? They didn't know it. Even an aura. They can't see auras, but also they can't talk about them because they don't even know that. They don't know the most simple. They don't read their own books. It's ridiculous. If you corner one, you'll find out.
So this brings me back to the whole thing that I always tell people. I'm nobody's savior. You know, if you knew me in real life, there are things about me you wouldn't like, you know, and there are things about me that you would like. I'm a human being. You know, one person's going to think I'm an asshole. Another person's going to love me to death. That's just what's going to happen. And when you realize that, you just kind of, I don't know, I always just try and put my best foot forward, to be honest. I'm constantly trying to be in service to others. But so who in this brings me back to my point, basically. It's just kind of like, guys, whether it's a spiritual person, I don't care how spiritual they are or how enlightened they are or they went through an ego death. I don't care. Don't worship. You have to save yourself. People like me, people like Priestess, we are just tools to help you advance. And you know what's going to happen for some of you? That I hope happens for some of you? You're going to blow past us. And you're going to go, oh, this is exactly, you know, this is the moment where I started to see things differently or understand the magic of the universe, of the world, of how it truly is, and sets you off. My goal is to have people take what I've done, my work, and expand on it and move the ball forward. I'm not in this for recognition or anything. The only reason I wrote a book series is because I wanted to tell the truth about a lot of things, but the only way you could do that in this society is in a fiction book. So people are like, oh, he's just a book shill. No, I'm really not. All my stuff on YouTube is free. I don't have a Patreon. You think I'm making money off YouTube? A little bit. Nothing significant at all. At all. I don't have a paywall, and I never will, because this isn't my information. This is for other people. And people don't like that kind of soul. But I would ask you, this brings me back to my point again, is that you can't find a savior, whether it's a spiritual guru or a politician or anybody. Stop deifying these people. Stop it. But with that being said, are there any people in the spiritual, esoteric, occult community that you do enjoy?
No, I like the conspiracy community. Actually, I haven't come across any like real pagans. I haven't listened to the Greyhorns. So I did have a pagan on my show a couple weeks ago, an astrologer, and she was amazing, Fiona Edgar. She was also on freemantv.com, but it's rare that I find someone I can totally jive with. But I love the conspiracy world. Ryan Christian of The Last American Vagabond, Jason Burmis Brigade. That's all on Rockfin. All of the conspiracy I watch, except for Dabu 7, is on rockfin.com.
Right. Which, guys, I'm still learning all this. I'm still learning all this about Rockfin, but that's just a platform that doesn't censor. It's not paywalled or anything, right? I mean, it can.
That you can subscribe, and then you get my premium content for free, and everyone else's, which is why it's so cool, because there's so many great shows on there. That's why I wanted to be there. I wanted to be among who I think are my peers. And thank goodness I'm on there. I've been on there almost 3 years now, and I do make a little bit of money, and I'm really grateful for the community.
Fantastic. That's great. Do you find that, like, I don't know about you, but for me, I can't stand not knowing something.
Yeah, it drives me mad. That's why I call myself Wonder Woman, because I'm wondering all the time.
Yeah, and I'm just constantly thinking about things or connecting things together. And I guess when you culminate enough information, it becomes a little overwhelming, because it's going to do two things. The first thing it does is when you start to wake up to all this stuff. Remember, guys, I teach astrotheology. That's only one of the 10 sciences in the Bible. This isn't a complete decoding at all. And I never pretended it was. When you develop and you gain all this knowledge and you go into the spiritual and the deep, and it does two things. Number one, it makes you feel isolated, because it becomes harder to have normal conversations with people. In general, most people aren't ready for it. But what you will find is that if people aren't always on your level and they like some of the things you say, they'll start listening to you. And once they start listening to you and they see your intention and what you say resonates, that's a community you're building. You know, so the best people that I know are people who, you know, watch these videos and never comment even, because they don't even have their picture. They're anonymous, and they have like a weird screen name, and but they'll never comment, or those are the kind of people that'll comment because they want to they don't want to be out there in the public. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't realize that Billy was pushing the Emerald Tablets as like the.
That's why I brought up Wilcock in the Law of One, Ra, the Law of One, because I believe that all the Emerald Tablets came out of all of that, and I could prove that was high magic, and it is just an extension of that, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth.
Right, I've read the Law of Ra. Let me ask you a question: which channelers do you listen to, or do you like?
None. I had to listen to Barbara Marciniak when she talked that she had a huge series. I think it was Barbara. No, it was the other channel. So it was from the 60s.
Was it Jane Roberts? Seth
yes.
Seth
and
speaks?
Seth speaks, and she spoke of the higher self and the different levels of which you can get communication on. And it totally explained my telephone system to me, because I didn't know how to even conceptualize what I was doing or looking at. And listening to that really helped. And I did mention that I do think David Wilcock is Edgar Casey, but I also think Edgar Casey was a fake. So I do think it's really rare that anyone with a true talent becomes famous. Mostly they're just vampirized off of until they die. Look at Rasputin. Rasputin was gifted. The mad monk of Russia, he could see with his eye, and then he went, Mother Mary said, go to Russia and tell them how to do this war. And so he did, and he saved.
I don't think people took him seriously because he slept with everyone, but then at the
but at first he was like Saint Rasputin, and then he showed his animalistic side, which
a lot of men need to overcome. But the other thing,
a reflection of the king, honestly.
And then it took, I can't even tell you how many times to kill him.
Right? That's his legend.
He just wouldn't die.
He said, if I'm killed among the rubble, ramble in the street like a dog, no problem. But if your family is involved with my death, then you will be cursed forever. And that's what happened. So that's one of the neatest things throughout history that I've read about. But Rasputin was vampirized. Why do you think he was acting out so much? People were using his light, and then he was trying to get it back in some really degraded ways.
Right.
I've never turned into a Rasputin.
So you have this dynamic, right? We have this eternal wisdom, right, that we're all trying to attain. And it seems that people attain it and they try and bring it to the world, and they become, for lack of a better word, demonized because of it. And then what ends up happening is the elites or the negative people end up hoarding that wealth of information and using it against people. That seems to be the process.
It's that whole poison and sugar thing you were talking about.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
They have to collect the sugar, the knowledge from somewhere.
Yeah, they do. And then they feed people nonsense.
But I found out the human race isn't the genius I thought it was. When they acquiesced to lockdowns, that really disappointed me. And it made me look at my audience in a whole new way. Like, really? Do people not know this stuff? We don't know that putting a mask on our face keeps us from breathing. How crazy is that?
Right. And all that stuff's coming back too.
They're trying. They certainly are pushing it. And Alex Jones said by the middle of October, jabs will be mandated again.
Right. Don't you and Alex Jones have a birthday together?
Yes, Alex is my birthday twin.
I remember that about you.
We're 49 years old in 2023 right now.
So do you think Alex is 99% sugar, 1% poison?
I don't know. I haven't met him. That's my whole thing, right? Now that I, know you
gotta just take them in.
But Alex is partially a materialist, and I judge people by the bank account sometimes, and not. It's about look at how hard he works. Do you think that is healthy for a human being?
No. But also look at the judgments against him. What is it, like $1 trillion or like $2 billion?
Which might make you think maybe he's in on it. Maybe he's part of it. But I appreciate Alex's information, even though I don't know him as a person.
I think that on this planet alive, he is easily the most entertaining person. I think
he's like Barnum Bailey, right?
It's not even close. Just his entire, like, he could be a wrestling character.
Yeah,
But
him and Trump have a lot in common, personality-wise.
They do, and the thing that I love about Trump is that he drives everyone insane. I couldn't care for his policies or anything, but like when he's sitting there and they ask him a question about E. Jean Carroll, right? and that whole thing that went down. And he goes, she had a cat named Vagina. Like, I just die laughing. Like, he is such a cartoon. And we need more of that. We need more personality because they beat it out of you.
Oh, you know? Well, he's colorful. You're right about that.
Yeah, he is. And he drives everyone bananas. So
well, I believe that politics is a Luciferian religion, and that's why I don't partake in it. And I would like to warn people who are all about JFK Jr. Is that his name?
Yeah.
He is a climate
RFK.
RFK, thank you.
It doesn't matter, but still, yeah.
He's a climate change dude. He would call you a climate denier. And we understand that climate change is to get us onto a blockchain system of finances, a universal basic income, and to also create 15-minute cities where you will never be able to leave other than 15 minutes of a radius of your house. So he's in on it.
That's what they say a lot of people are doing with what they're planning for Maui.
Exactly. A lot of people said that that's why they did what they did to Maui.
A lot of people do that. I swear, the best.
Well, New York is on the list of 15-minute cities. So is Greenville, South Carolina, home of Freeman Fly and Occult Priestess. It's crazy. We're the only like out of the way place you wouldn't expect. Greenville, right. South Carolina.
There's got to be something there.
Well, because yeah, there's a lot.
The other thing that you'll learn, Priestess, I don't know if you realize this, but it doesn't matter if it's law. It doesn't matter if it's I'm not even going to say religion, but whether it's law or politics or anything, when you break it down and really fine tune the pieces, everything is a perversion of spirituality, of pure essence. Everything is spiritual. I talked about a video about some lady that went into a church, and you know how they have the pew and the microphone in the front? What she did was she recorded the silence from the empty church, right? And what she did is she took that and she played it back through the speaker system and then kept doing that and recording and recording. What happened is eventually it led to cymatic activity, right? The pattern that the cymatic activity formed was the exact same shape as the stained glass window mural in the wall. Okay, so you're telling me that we didn't used to have this? We can't even build Gothic cathedrals anymore.
I know. Try to build a pyramid. Good luck.
Right?
That's what they do. They demonize the past. We were a bunch of savages. They rewrote our past. 2001, A Space Odyssey. We're freaking monkeys, right? It's ridiculous. But that's eugenics, darling.
Yeah. That's the other thing you guys have to realize is everything from your food to I can't even describe to you how everything, your food, what you eat, what you drink, what you watch, the shots, everything that they have going on in society, everything, the way that inflation, runaway inflation, the way they're still paying to the Federal Reserve System, the Rothschilds, all that, everything has one purpose, and it is depopulation. Everything. Yep. That is what they want.
Yeah, and now they want transhumanism, but it started with the kids, with transgenderism as a wordplay, but it's not a wordplay. Children are becoming infertile daily, and girls are getting their boobs cut off, boys are getting split up the middle, if you know what I mean. All kinds of craziness is going on, and that's just a precursor to transhumanism. So they will go as far as they like.
I follow this, I think it's a parody account, but I can't be sure. It's this Chinese lady from they came to America, and I think it's a parody account. It might not be, but she calls them, she can't really speak English that well, or at least she doesn't present like she can on Twitter, so she calls them all Transformers.
You're right, I've done that before. And I'm not even Asian.
So I just
Transformers. Yeah.
It's so. But at the end of the day, people who are listening, you need to look in the mirror and say, I'm not perfect, but my soul and my heart is always in the right place. And if I do that, then that is all I need. And then everything else is just butter. That's it. It's that simple. You have to live in light, and they don't want you to do that. They want to keep you in debt with school so that you have to get a job, so that you have to do this, so you're not spending your time. I shared a meme. I don't know if you saw it, but it was it was a guy at an interview. It was the bearded right-wing meme dude, and he was at a job interview, and it was like, excuse me, it said, can you explain the gap in your resume? And he said, that is when I was gathering all the occult ancient wisdom.
Right.
Which is, you got to put the time in, you know? And they say that brilliant people will always have violent opposition from mediocre minds.
Totally. Yeah, I just think of what they did to Jesus, the ultimate martyr. You know, he tried to bring healing, love, and understanding, but they wanted him to rise up and be a warrior and take over, Israel? Mm. And he's like, no, I just want to love and be loved, and let's love. And look what happened to him.
Mm-hmm. It's wild. It's wild. Priestess, tell everyone again where they can find you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mike Dank, as I call Danka because it's fun. Mm-hmm. Danke Shane. Okay.
Priestess, by the way, before she tells you, every, what is it, January 20th? Was it January 23rd? January 22nd? We do an annual, or we started to do an annual remembrance of Jordan Maxwell. And it will always
be year number 3.
This will be year number 3. And I'd like to open it up to people, comments or thoughts and things this year. We will do this every year until I can no longer do this. But that's a great thing that we've got going. So just tell everyone where they can find you and your work.
Thank you for having me on. It is 9/12/2023 at 1:25 p.m. I am Occult Priestess Corinne Wilson. I just updated my website, occultpriestess.com. I have new classes up, so go look at that. But also, I'm a soul counselor. That's really why I am here. I do videos so I can counsel more souls at once. But please look at my original gift at occultpriestess.com, at Occult Priestess on Twitter. Let's see. I'm on Rumble. I'm on YouTube. And I'm on Rockfin/Occult Priestess. And I hope you come by real soon. Thanks, guys. Mwah.
Now, real quick, before I end this, where can people see that article that you sent me that led to this conversation?
Well, I had it up a minute ago, but the original Facebook post that Danka put up 6 days ago holds all the links that I sent you. And so I can bring that back up.
Yeah.
So look for the links below, kids, and do your own research. Question everything.
Priestess, thank you. You are such a shining light always. People are going to think we're crazy, and I don't really care. As long as they're watching, maybe some people will start to wake up to this kind of stuff.
And you and we understand each other, so that's a win.
We're all on a different wavelength, you know. That's just the nature of the soul's journey, and what you've agreed to come here and do and figure out and things of that nature. But I appreciate it. Thank you for turning me off, Billy, even though I already was. We will do this again soon. I need another topic for you though, but this was amazing. So just to clarify, they are not one and the same, and it's a very recent thing that Emerald Tablets of Thoth.
It's just because they're both the god of communication. I mean, how simple and silly is that? How many gods of communication are there? Right. Many. But Thoth came up with writing and all of that. And then Hermes, the Greek, is a reflection, but definitely not the same being. And that's what made me mad, is that Billy Carson never asked Thoth.
Yes. Well, don't they also say that the Emerald Tablets of Thoth are 36,000 years old?
Their timelines are really weird, and I don't do well with numbers, so it kind of just goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah. Trying to like match up what age it was, but it doesn't. If it's a forgery, it's a forgery. It is what it is. You guys read it anyway, you know, just because you want to know what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Know your enemy.
Yeah.
You have to read their books.
You have to, and no one does that. But Priestess, this was very enlightening. Thank you. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.